Seasoned Chef Troy Vincent here. Today we're going to be making a favorite of the low country, and I don't know if you know the Savannah, Georgia area is all low country, or in Georgia and South Carolina, and I'm not sure if they include North Carolina in what they call low country, but this is a low country specialty, and it's called she crab soup. Now normally you need crab roe, but it's not always available, and most of the time people make it without it, which is the egg pouch from an unfertilized female crab, which gives the soup an orange color. But without any further ado, I'll get on to the ingredients here. We have about 3/4 of a stick of butter, flour, about half cup, maybe, if that, crab meat, Worcestershire sauce, heavy cream, a pint of heavy cream, wine. Now that some people use cooking sherry, it's up to you. I don't really care for cooking sherry. I like to use real wine. 2 quarts of half and half. Salt and pepper, dill, which I usually also use fresh, but I kind of procrastinated. I had a lot going on, and I had some dill in the refrigerator. It went bad. I threw it out. Celery diced, 1 small onion diced, and chicken broth here. And without further ado, did I say crab meat? I think I already got that one. But anyway, let me get my camera set up and we'll get started. Oh, wait a minute, I missed one. We have some seafood seasoning back here, and I know y'all know that brand, but I'm not advertising for anyone, so I'm just making this. First, I'm going to put my 3/4 of a stick of butter into the pot. Turn it on about medium heat. And I'll get that started melting. As soon as I get the bottom of the pan coated here, I'm going to click on and out of this off the camera so that I don't bore you all to death, but we'll kind of skip through some of the time. We'll time lapse it ourselves, right? Okay, our butter's melted, and now we're going to add in our onion. Stir that in, and then I've seen people put carrots in this, but I don't know. Just like clam chowder. This is a very similar soup to clam chowder, but it doesn't have potatoes in it. And generally, now some people leave it a little chunky because of the crab meat. They like a little chunks of crab meat. But most of the time, any time I really ate it, me and my wife used to go to a place called the Crazy Crab, and down in Hilton Head, and we always went in for lunch, and we would have a cup of she crab soup, and we would share an order of calamari, which I was going to do calamari too, but I have to get my fryer out, and it kind of takes up half the space I have here, so I don't really want to get into the calamari today, but I will eventually do that. And I'm going to be moving here before long, and I'll get somewhere, and I'll have a place maybe where I could set up and show you how to flash fry calamari correctly where you're not ruining it. A lot of people tend to ruin it, and they overcook it and make it tough. But usually what I'll do before I put the crab meat, I'll get my immersion blender, which I've heard people call these bolt motors, or whatever you want to call it, stick blender, so you can call it whatever you want. But I'll take it to it before I add the crab meat, because I still want my crab meat to be a little chunky in there, so but I'll immersion blend it all with the cream and everything and make it real smooth and creamy. So this is meant to be a creamy soup, not really a chunky like soup like your clam chowder, or of course like beef stew. That's really chunky, but we'll let this cook until it clears, and then I'll start back up again. Okay, and one thing you can go ahead and do while it's sauteing, and you can turn this down on low because you really don't want to burn your butter. And once you add the flour, you don't want to brown the flour either, because this soup is meant to be, white, not really browned like you would do in a Espanol or something on that level, or even gumbo, which you would go for shoot for a brick red roof. fresh ground pepper. I might just put a little extra because I like pepper in my stuff, so I'll put a little bit extra. It's a little less time consuming. A little salt. I'll go ahead and put a little shot of this Old Bay. And now some people use like a whole teaspoon, or I don't do all that because I'd rather be able to taste the cream and the, you know, it does add a nice little taste if you do add a little bit. You don't need a lot of it. And as you can see, my onions and celery are getting kind of clear. I had to kick the heat down. I have these really large burners on the stove, and even turned down, they still get a little too hot. So I really have to stay on top of stuff on here. So we'll add the flour, and we'll sort of make a roux here. Anybody knows what a roux is? Not everybody does, but most everybody does, I think. And I can already smell that little bit of seafood seasoning, a little bit of the salt and pepper, the onions, the celery. It smells really good already. And I haven't even put anything in it yet. During this couple seconds of silence, I just wanted to add that I forgot that you have to add 2 cloves of minced garlic in, so I'll talk about it later. I just want that to seep in, but anyway, let's what we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to add in some of the half and half now. And one of the things you want to do is keep a wire whisk handy. If it starts to lump on you, now one of my tricks is actually to pour a little at a time, and then you get this paste, and then you can start to dilute the paste, and you almost don't need a wire whisk by adding a little at a time. But if you're in a hurry, you can just keep the old wire whisk handy. My wife loved Paula Deen, and I'm glad she got to meet her. My wife passed away in August of 2020, and it's been a little rough year and a half just since she's gone. And kind of weird when you don't have somebody you're used to talking to every day there all of a sudden, and not to mention everything we went through. But it was a sudden thing, not expected at all. So you can kick the heat back up a little bit, maybe to a medium, and you'll want to make sure you don't get any lumps. But as I said, it won't matter much because I'll come back anyway with my immersion blender, and I'm going to make this all real smooth anyway. There won't be any chunks of celery, and it'll all be blended in. And to me, that's like the best she crab soup. And most of the places I had the best she crab soup I had, it was really creamy and just you barely had little chunks of crab meat in it. All right, now it's starting to thicken up. So we'll add a little bit more. The only lumps in here are the onions and the celery, so I may kick this on high speed. Go ahead and have that out cord. There's no lumps, so we're good. Let that sit a minute. Okay, I wanted to wait till it got warmed back up again, and I whisked it a little bit more to add the second quart. And then when that warms up just a little bit more, I'm going to go ahead and add the 12-ounce can of chicken broth and a pint of heavy cream, which that's with this soup. It is really a heavy creamy soup, and it's not meant to be chunky. As I said, it's supposed to be really creamy, and the crab flavor, just everything works together. It's one of the better soups that I think I like. I like my clam chowder, don't get me wrong, and my gumbo, I forget about it. But I really do like this stuff, it's good. Normally I also buy like the cans of crab meat that are like the big cans that are a one ounce can. And whenever I went, I couldn't find any. So I had to buy these little off the aisle with your tuna fish and stuff. And so I hope they're okay. I really do. I don't want to make this pot of soup and then find out I ruined it with the crab meat. But I'm praying that doesn't happen. So I don't think anybody cans anything that bad. But I'll tell you what, I bought some tiny shrimp one time in a can and they were horrible. And I couldn't eat them. My wife couldn't eat them. We threw them away, so whatever it was I made with them, we tossed it. It was almost unbearable. I think I know what it was. It was this crab dip, a seafood dip my wife makes every year, and she bought these cans, and I think it was the brand name, I don't want to down a brand name. His name, I think it was Reese, R-E-E-S-E, tiny shrimp in a can. Oh, ugh, they tasted so horrible. I don't know what they did to them, but they just did not have a good flavor at all. They were horrible. Usually most of the polar stuff I've had is not bad, so that's why I'm hoping that this crab meat's pretty good. So we'll let that sit again and we'll come right back. Okay. Now, one thing I didn't mention was with this soup, it's got to be reduced. So you have to be careful with your salt. Again, I put a little bit at the beginning, but you have to reduce this down by 1/3. So you don't want to add a lot of salt until you come back and taste it after it's reduced. But now that it's simmering again, what I'm going to do is go ahead and add the heavy cream. Add the heavy cream and the chicken broth. You see how much whiter it kind of looks now? That heavy cream really makes a difference, and once it cooks down, you're also going to go ahead and add the Worcestershire sauce now. And I put at least 2 teaspoons, but I'm going to go ahead and measure it now. You know what? I'll put a tablespoon, so I think a tablespoon is like a little over 2 teaspoons anyway, maybe almost 3. Oh, dill weed. We want to go ahead and add our dill weed. It's about 2. You're supposed to use about 3 tablespoons of fresh. Oh, wait a minute. It was, yeah, 2, I think. Fresh dill weed, but this is dried, so I'm not sure that it's going to take as much because it's seems like it when it dries down it's more concentrated, so I'm going to use a little under 2 tablespoons to give it that flavor. It makes it so good. You just, until you experience sheet crab soup for yourself, you have no idea how good this is. But after this, yeah, I think that's more than enough. Hope it's not too much because of being dried. I'm not sure. I've never used the dried. I always get fresh. And I'm going to let this simmer for a little bit. Okay, one thing I really forgot, I haven't made this in a while because my wife and me used to eat it so much, and I always made it for her, and I haven't made it in a while. I actually forgot you're supposed to mince up 2 cloves of garlic and put them in, so I went ahead and did that while I had the camera stopped. And I went ahead and added, now they say to use like a half a cup to a cup of wine. It depends on you, and I just go ahead and put it in, and then I start to reduce it. So I'm going to cut the time off. It's supposed to be reduced for like a half an hour. You want it to reduce about 1/3 of the way down, and then you add the crab meat, which is the last thing. Now some people put chives on top. I never really did that, so you don't have to. Some of the recipes you even see online call for chives, which You can have them, or if you don't have them, don't worry about it. I don't think it makes much difference. If you have some dehydrated ones, just throw them in the soup while it's cooking. But again, you're messing with the creaminess. So I'm going to run the motorboat here in a minute and go ahead and puree this, and then I'll start the camera back up whenever it's reduced down by half an hour. So, okay, and one thing I didn't say is you need to now traditionally they say put a lid on and let it reduce down. I find that things don't reduce as fast when you have a lid on them, but I do try to keep a lid on. But my burner unfortunately stays too hot, so what'll happen is it'll keep cooking up and trying to overrun, so I can't really keep a lid on this one as much. But as you can see, it's reduced down about a third now, and it's really kind of quite thick. I did use the immersion blender in it and chopped everything up, celery, onion, everything else was in it. And now I'm going to add my crab meat. And you got to watch these cans of crab meat like this. They have paper in the top and the bottom. I already went through and got it out. So, and then stir it in. Now this is where traditionally some of the people who make it, not everybody, I guess I wouldn't really need to say traditionally, but people will add more wine or your chives if you want to add chives. I don't use them. Again, you don't need them. I mean, you already have onion in it, so it's not like you need more onion. And I like to really keep things simple and keep it down to, the flavor of the crab and the cream and the butter and the heavy cream, and just keep that flavor kind of simple. The salt and pepper, and I'm going to go ahead and stir it in and let it sit for a minute, and then I'm going to taste it and see where we're at on the salt, and then we may add more salt. But this is basically she crab soup. You can see it's quite thick. It's not, like runny soup. It's pretty thick, so. And you got to keep stirring this, just so you know, too. You don't want it, especially you don't want it to burn and scald on the bottom. You know what? All I got is a teaspoon right here. Regular teaspoon. A little piece of onion here to brown. I'm gonna try it out. See if it needs more salt, and we're good. Oh, that is so good. You gotta try this. You don't want to follow my recipe, you can find one online. Not hard to make. Maybe in one of my next future ones, I'll show you how to make my calamari, which is, I have a technique for doing the calamari as well, because I think when you get calamari, it kind of has a smell and a taste, and I know how to eliminate that. And once you eliminate that, you get down to the real flavor of the calamari, and it is good. But I wish my wife were here with us, so she's not. But anyway, make some calamari, and we'd have our favorite lunch from the Crazy Crab. Alrighty, take care, people. Not everything in the kitchen is that difficult to make. This is not that hard. You really don't have to follow my recipe exactly. You can kind of, improvise, do your own thing. Some people put hot sauce in theirs. It just depends on the recipe you're looking at, or if you just use mine, you can do whatever you want, really. So take care. That's why I mentioned Paula Deen, because this is one of the last things my wife bought from Paula Deen's store before she passed away.